Thank you so much for the time. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good. I have a question as we get going here, though, because I feel like I heard you mention in a recent interview that you are a part-time Chicago resident right now. Is that still the case?
Yeah, that's partly true. Yes, I live outside of Chicago in a place called Springfield, and I live in outside of LA as well. So yeah, are you from Chicago?
I'm not from there. I lived there for about 7 years. It's where I met my now wife before we moved back to where
Oh
I'm
yeah,
from, which is Austin in Texas. But I've got a huge fondness for that city. I mean, it is
yeah.
many things, but it's obviously a very fun town too. Funny town too, excuse me. You being on the outskirts, so I don't know how much additional work you're doing in terms of the stand up or anything else inside of Chicago. Are you taking part in that comedy culture in the Windy City at all, either through sketch,
No,
improv, or even stand up?
the only thing is I've been a guest at the Second City for a while. I mean, every so often I've guest and that's the closest I got to doing. I mean, I've done Zanies in the past and other venues for stand up, but for improv, it's been Second City, so I've done that a few times.
Yeah, people may not realize this, but Chicago is much more about improv and sketch comedy than stand up. That's not to say there's not a stand up scene, but
Yeah,
there's a reason why a lot of SNL characters end up living in Chicago before they make that move to New York because Chicago does that as well as maybe anybody on the planet.
yeah, they do. They're very talented. They have a great group, and yeah, they're hardworking. They have it throughout the whole week. They have a show every night, so. Unlike some groups, they're just the weekend, so that's a lot of work.
Yeah, so I'm excited because I am getting to see your stand up live for the very first time at Cap City Comedy Club this
Oh,
weekend.
okay.
I know you've been to Austin to perform stand up in the past because you were at Cap City previously. I have to admit, though, as somebody who loves comedy in general, but also stand up, I'm not sure what your stand up comedy history is, though. So you started the Groundlings back in the day. It's where you met Will Ferrell,
Yeah.
so many other great, funny people. Dated Jennifer Coolidge while you guys were both there, as I found out in your excellent memoir from a few years ago. But when did the stand up journey start for you, Chris?
Oh, it didn't start until after I left SNL, until somebody suggested you should start pursuing stand up, and I did, and it worked out. So I've been doing it for like, I don't know, 10 years now.
10 years,
Something like
okay.
that.
I
Yeah.
would I would assume you have a little bit of leg up as somebody who has not only performed on stage, but obviously in front of audience as well. Even though you're playing characters, that it's easier for you to find that stand up voice, even though you only started a decade or so ago.
Yeah, it does have a bit of a leg up. I mean, people when they come to the show, they expect to hear SNL stories and stuff of my characters that they remember. So there is a bit of a responsibility that I have to take care of, and so that's a plus and a minus to it. Sometimes I don't want to do it, but I feel like I have to because people love it.
Well, I've seen through a social media clip that there's a really fun self-depreciating element, like a dark element to it as well as you talk about some of these things and you get the laughs and the whoops from the crowd for some of the more obvious characters that obviously put you on the map in terms of why you're so beloved comedically.
Yeah, I guess I do. Yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah, well, thank you.
Sure. You talk a lot about all the different characters, Roxbury, Mr. Peepers, which at the end of the day may be my favorite, just combining the man and an animal, much less the greatest animal, that being a monkey. But something I don't hear you talk about enough is Gay Hitler, which was, I think,
Oh,
from the
I
early.
only did it once. It was kind of a faux pas at the time, and probably still is. But
I don't know if you can get away with Gay Hitler in 2025. How much of a conversation had to be had just to get that sketch on the air one time?
yeah, I don't know. It worked back. It was the '90s, so it's early 2000s. But yeah, it was. I don't think it would work out today.
Was that your idea, Gay Hitler?
No, it was a guy by the name, a brilliant writer, creator named Michael Schur,
Oh
who
yeah.
now worked on The Office and Parks and Rec. He
Yep.
created and The Good
Good
Place.
place. Yeah, he's done a lot of great stuff over the years.
Yeah, he's a brilliant guy. So he created that character for me. So he wrote that for me.
Was there any apprehension from you, or as soon as he proposed the idea, you're like, screw it, I'm in?
I love it when someone like that writes for me. So if someone like that's going to write for me, I'm going to do it. You know, that someone of that caliber, I'm most likely going to do it.
So, you as a Chicago resident, I noticed from your Instagram that you got to throw out a first pitch at a Cubs game
Oh, yeah.
some point within the last year or so. I mean, I've done that at a minor league baseball game, and it's very nerve wracking.
Yeah.
How nerve wracking was it for you to walk out in front of that full crowd at Wrigley and try and throw a strike?
It wasn't so bad because the game didn't start yet. It's like pre-game. And so there's people still shuffling in. But I made it, I made it into the pitchers. I don't even know anything about sports, but I know I made it, as far as the ball should go.
The catcher caught the ball, is what you're
the
telling
the
me.
catchers cut the ball, yeah, basically is what I'm saying.
Better than a lot of people do. You outperformed 50 Cent by a mile there.
I didn't know. What did 50 Cent do?
Oh, he threw it to the backstop. It's an all-time embarrassing first pitch. Really, what you hope to do at the end of the day is to get it in the direction of the catcher, to where even if the catcher's having to pick it out of the dirt, they're still able to get it. I mean, 50 Cent nearly hit the mascot
Oh, he
all the way
did.
at the backstop. Yeah,
Oh, that's funny.
yeah.
Well, you probably get more attention for doing something like that than you do a really good pitch.
Yeah, well, I guess it gets to the philosophical question of whether bad press is good press at the end of the day because they're still talking about you. I would think for 50 Cent, he would rather have not thrown it like he had never picked up a sports ball before.
I mean, I was in a softball team when I was in like grade, I don't know. I was in junior high, I guess you call it. I guess that's when it was, and I was in a softball team. So I wasn't very good. I wasn't a sports enthusiast. So, but I was on a team, so I could say that.
Do you remember what position you played?
I was like one of the basemen,
Okay.
like third base,
Yeah.
second base, and first base. We'd rotate. We didn't have enough players to play a proper game. It wasn't like we had all the attire and all that. It was brought up in a fairly poor school, so we didn't really have the attire to wear the proper clothing that you would usually wear on a team.
Oh, even though it was an official team, y'all were kind of treating it like it was the
Well,
Sandlot.
we were. I mean, it was Mount Baldy. This is where I grew up in Southern California, and it was the mountains. And we didn't really have. We played a couple teams, but not too many people wanted to make the trek all the way up the mountain to play a game. So we didn't have a lot of activity. But nonetheless, there was a softball team.
So I want to say I quit organized school sports around
Yeah.
the junior high age as well. It was weird because as a kid, even a high school kid, I kind of had a sense of what it was that I wanted to do when I was older. So I leaned into the sports journalism dork thing, and I was covering my team's games and other teams in the area as well. What sort of high schooler were you? Were you somebody who was getting into theater and making people laugh all the way back then as well?
Yeah, after I lived in Mount Baldy, I moved up to the Seattle area,
Hmm.
which is a school called Bainbridge Island High School, which is in the Puget Sound, right next to Seattle, rather. It's right across the water. And I did go to school there, and that's where I wasn't on. I was attracted to theater, so I jumped into the theater the most. I did get class clown if you're leaning towards that question. I was proud to be class clown. I was very excited when I got class clown.
Yeah, class clown at the end of the day tends to be one of the most creative people at the school.
I guess so. I didn't know. I didn't think about that.
You've talked about this, and you also did a great job of writing about it in your book. But you were friends with Will Ferrell, and you're guys that it just kind of clicks for you when you try to make magic happen. That goes
Yeah.
all the way to the Groundlings that obviously continued at SNL too. What is it about working with Will that makes that process so simple for the both of you, Chris?
I don't know what it was, but we just clicked. Once we started performing together at the Groundlings Theater, we just clicked. There was something about we automatically made each other laugh. And I remember doing a staring contest with him, and that was part of an improv game, and we were trying to keep our eyes open, and we are trying to see who broke first, and it was almost impossible to do with him. But obviously he's one of the funniest men on the planet. But it was really hard to keep a straight face with him. But yeah, there was I don't know what it was. It was just chemistry. It was just, it was there. We had it, and that's what made it so much easier to write characters for.
Well, and as you write about in the book, it wasn't exclusive to the stage either. Like as you guys are trying to make it to get paid to make people laugh for a living, you had a gig at one point where he played Santa and you were an elf walking around amusing kids, and at some point that devolves into you guys amusing yourselves because you really don't care about
Yeah.
the kids, right?
Yeah, we worked for a temp company, a temp to make extra money, and it was during the winter season, and we were paid to walk around Pasadena and hand out candy canes. And I remember I was handing out candy canes, and he was a Santa, and I was a little elf. And we would walk through the gap, and we'd walk. We were just like it was hilarious. We would more like we would tease people more than anything. We were just making fun of people because it was like a week-long gig, and it was very funny.
That's some class
Yeah,
clown. That's some class clown level
class
stuff right there.
class clown level comedy.
Bouncing back to SNL real quick. I mean, as I told you, Mr. Peepers is probably my all-time favorite character of yours. I
Oh, thank
went
you.
back and watched some of those sketches over the last day after I learned that you and I would get to have this conversation. I can't, just like with Gay Hitler, there's just like some stuff you're getting away with. Like what was going on during the sketch that was co-starring Charlize Theron, where Molly Shannon's a part of it as well, where it's just like, this doesn't fly in this day and age. Or if it does, it's got to be on a streamer somewhere. I just don't think the networks are willing to take a risk like that, even though the risk was a beautiful payoff.
Yeah, it worked out, but it was, it was a chance to take, and it was very physical, and Charlize Theron was a sport. What was the premise? It was the therapist office, and I was like
Sex therapist,
the
yeah.
sex therapist, and basically we started putting food in each other's mouths, and she took off her blindfold, and she's like, "Oh, I gotta have you, Mr. Peepers." It was really silly. And so she was running around the room trying to get me. And then in doing so, she ripped off my wig, which is pretty funny.
I don't know how you weren't breaking more in some of the sketches that you were a part of. Obviously, SNL just had that 50th anniversary show
Uh-huh.
not too long ago. I heard Bill Murray talking about it, and for someone as stoic as Murray comes off as, at least in the public eye, he admitted that he cried several times throughout that gathering. What was that like for you
Yeah.
to get to be back there and see a lot of your old friends, but also to maybe be in awe of the occasional person that you had watched when you were much younger and an up and coming funny person?
Well, it was. It was an incredible event, that Lauren put together, and it was amazing. And it was emotional to see everybody at the same time, and all that feeling came back. Some of the feelings that you had back in the day when you were on SNL, and all the memories you had, all the great memories that you had, and all the fun times, and all the connections you made, and all the friendships you made were all came back together in a like a plethora of fun, and it was emotional though, for sure. It was an incredible night, to be amongst that much talent and characters, and it was just really impressive. It was really an honor to be there.
Was there anybody that you saw there that you were just in awe of, whether it was a former cast member or somebody who was coming to celebrate with everyone?
I think seeing Paul McCartney was pretty cool.
I'll say.
Yeah, that was really cool to got to meet him because he's not somebody you meet every day. you know,
Oh, you
One of
actually did
the
get to meet him
Beatles.
too?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, he was at the end of the show, we're all up on stage and we're all crowded about amongst each other. And we're wearing the tuxedos and women are wearing cocktail dresses. And we're just like, it was just amazing to see all these people, and then you turn around and there's Paul McCartney, and or Paul Simon or somebody, but Paul McCartney was really that was very impressive to meet him. So I could actually say I met one of the Beatles.
Yes, you can. All right, last question now, Chris. This has been a fun conversation today. Really
Oh, okay.
appreciate it. People can check you out at Cap City Comedy Club, a show early and late on Saturday. CapCityComedy.com to snag those tickets. You've been good at it for a long time now, but what do you love about getting to make people laugh for a living?
Oh, well, I think the connection of connecting with the crowd. I love the connecting of it and doing crowd work. That's what I do. That's what I like mostly about stand up. And that brings me back to Saturday Night Live and doing, getting the laughs and hearing the laughter and hearing the immediate laughter. Same thing with the Groundlings. When I was in the Groundlings, you get to hear the immediate laughter. And there's something magical about that means and it roots back to when you're a comedian, back to high school, back to being the class clown. That when you got those laughs, that meant like you're somebody. It means like you're a somebody, and that was really important to me. So when it comes back and you continue it in your life, it reminds you of your childhood and every one of those moments that you wanted to perform for laughter, and especially have fun. And having fun and connecting with the audience is the key to comedy.
Thank you for that answer. He is Chris Kattan. As I just said, check him out at Cap City Comedy Club this Saturday, a 7 and 9:15 show. I'm going to be at the later show, capcitycomedy.com for tickets, and give him a follow on Instagram as well at Chris Kattan Official. Chris, this has been a real honor and pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. Safe travels to and from Austin this weekend.
Welcome. Thanks, buddy. Great talking to you.